My name is Tessa Griffin, and the title of my presentation is Juveniles, Life Without Parole, Otis Daniels. The objective of this presentation, I will discuss the juvenile, discuss his juvenile background, list early intervention options, list the crimes that led to his incarceration, explain his life without parole sentence, and discuss the resentencing trial. Otis Daniels Jr. was born in 1982 in an impoverished, drug-riddled, high-crime neighborhood in Albany. He came from a broken home. He started out with two parents in the home. His mother and father separated at age 10. At that time, he started to act out. His mother noticed him becoming involved with bad crowds. She had been hearing rumors around town that he was involved with gang members or a part of a gang. And she had also heard of him experimenting with drugs. He had actually started to run away and blamed his mother for his father not being in the home anymore. He started using cocaine at the age of 11. During an interview with the mother stated that upon Daniel's arrest for his life without parole crime, he stated to her that he got involved with cocaine through his father, and his father was the one that actually supplied him with cocaine. He and his father would sometimes smoke the cocaine together. Daniels became involved in criminal activity at an early age. He committed armed robbery in the year of 1995, and he was only 13 years old, 12 to 13 years old. Armed robbery is a crime that has a mandatory 20-year sentence. But under the First Offender Act, he was given a 20-year probated sentence. So therefore, he was never held accountable for that armed robbery crime that he committed initially. 2 months later, Daniels violated that probation by being involved in receiving a stolen car and eluded the police in a chase. After violating that probation, it was revoked, and he ended up being made to serve 2 of those probated years. There were no juvenile intervention measures that were given or required of Daniels. He was not not held accountable for the initial criminal acts that he had committed. He could have possibly been given family counseling along with the mother and father to deal with the issues that were going on that caused the breakup and that followed the breakup. He could have also been given an option to be a part of a Boys and Girls Club, or if the worst case possible, for his initial crime of robbery, he should have been sent to a detention center for some type of payment for his crime, as well as some intervention options like maybe some type of rehabilitation or group therapy or what have you. On March 31st to be exact, in 1998 in Albany, Georgia. At that point, he broke into the home of Valerie McGorrick. He was under the influence of drugs, and his motive was to actually rob them. Once he entered the home, Valerie was in the home along with her 16-year-old daughter, Valine. In the end, he ended up shooting both Valerie and her daughter Verlene. Valerie remained alive for 2 weeks and succumbed to the injuries that she suffered from him 2 weeks later. But the daughter, Verlene, actually survived. She survived it, but had multiple surgeries. Her face is permanently disfigured because he shot her in the face. But nonetheless, she still did survive. When he was arrested and detained, Daniels pleaded guilty of all charges. He had been indicted on 22 charges. Those charges included malice and felony murder, kidnapping with bodily harm, armed robbery, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of a firearm by a person under the age of 18, aggravated assault, as well as theft. At the time, the state was actually seeking the death penalty, but he was actually sentenced to 3 life sentences, 3 life without parole sentences. He's now currently housed at Ware State Prison. Over 2,000 juveniles, over 2,000 offenders in the United States are currently serving sentences for crimes that they committed as children. In the year of 2012, the United States Supreme Court ruled that it was unconstitutional to sentence a minor to life without parole. In June of 2019, Otis Daniels was actually featured on an episode of A&E's network's Kids Behind Bars. He was featured because with the Supreme Court ruling that it was unconstitutional to sentence a child with life without parole. Those cases, some of those cases that occurred previously, had to be relooked at, and Daniels actually got some hope that he could actually someday parole out and see society again. So in April of 2018, he was granted a resentencing, and on April the 26th of 2018, the district attorney actually agreed to change that sentence from life without parole to life with the possibility of parole. That day, it was decided that Otis Daniels would be eligible for parole by the age of 46. A 16-year-old child does not have a fully developed mindset. A sentence confining a minor to life sentences basically violates the 4th Amendment. At-risk youth need interventions or the intervention of deterrent programs. If they're not receiving the proper leadership, the proper influence at home, some other options should be made available to them. So those individuals that committed these crimes and were sentenced to life without the possibility of parole before the Constitution actually changed to basically rule that cruel and unusual punishment, those individuals should be required to have their cases at least looked at, because being in prison from the age starting at an early age before you're a minor, you don't experience life. You don't learn any lessons. There's nothing in life that you learn because your life is basically prison. You don't have the option to complete high school. Your mentality matures with age. Your mind basically has to go through things in order for you to learn things. And a child that is from a broken home in an impoverished neighborhood, seeing nothing but crime and gang members and drug use, they don't stand a chance. So individuals, a child needs to be reared if they're not getting that rearing at home.